Avichi College of Arts and Science is a co-educational institution affiliated to the University of Madras. The college is managed by the ABM Rajeshwari Educational Trust. Our college offers undergraduate programs like BCom General, Accounting and Finance, Bank Management, Corporate Secretaryship, BSc Visual Communication, BSc Computer Science, BCA, and BBA. Being the pioneers in the field of education, Avichi provides the best for its students. In Avichi, one can experience multicultural campus, excellent infrastructure and facilities, congenial learning atmosphere, UGC qualified faculty with industry experience, active sports, NSS, RRC, and other extracurricular clubs. The novel program of Avichi College is the Avichi Mentorship Program, wherein the students get an opportunity to get trained by these stalwarts of the industry. Special training programs to enhance the spoken English skills of our students, state of the art studios and laboratories, well furnished gallery type classrooms, highly equipped library, regular field visits, and very near to the Vadapalani bus terminal. To stay connected with us, log on to Facebook and visit our page Avichi College or log on to www.avichicollege.edu.in. Learn from the pioneers, come and experience the legacy of being an Avichian.
Good morning. Welcome all participants for this wonderful webinar on wildlife filmmaking presented by the National Award winner, Mr. Subbiah Nallamuthu, India's leading filmmaker, wildlife filmmaker and cinematographer. He has joined us today to share his experiences and to show some light on the wildlife filmmaking and the other opportunities about the opportunities in media. He needs no introduction. When you check out leading filmmakers in India, wildlife filmmakers in India, you get to know him. But for the presenters for the attendees of today, I have to introduce him. He's Mr. Subbiah Nallamuthu, is India's leading wildlife filmmaker and was very specialized in tiger-centric films. So popularly called as wild cats, big cats. He's following the tigers and the tigers' families for making films on especially tigers. He's a cinematographer from FTIT Chennai. Nallamuthu has earlier worked as a cameraman with ISRO and Films Division. He had the pleasure and privilege of working with some of the industry's best directors and networks include such as National Geographic Channel, BBC, Discovery, Channel 4, Animal Planet, Star TV, and Doordarshan. There are many firsts associated with Nallamuthu sir's work. He shot India's first and longest running Panda Award winning environment series, Living on the Edge, the first travel show, Off the Beaten Track, the first automobile show, Wheels, the first reality show, Hospital, first Hindi feature film in full HD, and one of the first to use 4K resolution in wildlife filming. Nallamuthu sir has dedicated the past decade to filming in India's forest, producing some of India's most iconic tiger and wildlife films for National Geographic Channel, BBC, Animal Planet, and Discovery Channel. His ability to add a theatrical touch to the factual storytelling and his technical skills combined with a poetic visual story style has won him several awards, including the prestigious Indian National Film Award for Best Cinematography and Best Environmental Film. Nallamuthu's fascination for beautiful visuals and his compassion for wildlife have resulted him in spending most of his time in the forest in India, searching for unique characters and stories with the wildlife. Through his films, Nallamuthu hopes to bring to life every second of raging the struggle for survival that persists in the unpredictable wild and gives conservation a fresh perspective. I've read somewhere about his stories. He says, I'm a filmmaker and not a conservationist. He adds up the forest of India and the tigers from Ranthambore has stories to tell. So it is about the dynasty of tigers he has filmed, and the dynasty of tigers are still there, and the dynasty continues in his through his lens and through his poetic films. So I take immense pride and privilege, on having Mr. Subbiah Nallamuthu sir on this special day, presenting this wonderful webinar to the students and the participants of today.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Prakash ji.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to discuss mainly on, apart from, most of the people in visual communication or film students, they always think after completion of the course, they always think, feature film is the only option. But as a film institute student, ex-student in 83, 86 batch, I just wanted to discuss more about, apart from feature films also, there are a lot of scopes in our country, particularly after this digital revolution. One can do so many sectors of filmmaking is still open to people, still a lot of scope to explore it. So that is one thing which I really wanted to discuss more. But if at all any question is there, I'll be happy to start that webinar from any such particular any questions from the students.
Yeah, so we'll start with these questions.
Okay.
So talking about your journey, so just first we'll start with your journey, and how did this beautiful wildlife journey started in your life, sir?
See, after completion of this institute, I was working in government organization like ISRO, Films Division. And after that, I resigned that job, and I thought, there was much to do in private sectors in a freelance space. So I resigned the job and started working. And those days, 1991, I was in Delhi. So that's the time, what do you call this? Metro television started. First private television started doing things. Started getting into our country. They started, new channels started coming up. So a lot of scope. I thought I'll do something in that sector. So that's the reason I just started doing in television. So I had an opportunity to work for Doordarshan. That was the first time in the prime time they wanted to do an environment-based series. So I thought let's, a group of 3-4 people, we joined together, started doing something on environment, which is the first environment magazine in our country. So we thought of telling environment stories and started talking about pollution, started talking about all sort of problems. But somehow it was very well done. It's the first effort, and it was recognized worldwide, got awards and everything. But the viewership was very less because the main reason was it was so much of information, so much of facts and figures, so much about only on no preaching stuff. So then that is the reason I decided, okay, let's start something instead of just talking about these problems. Let's start the same issue in a storytelling format. So storytelling format is the only way at least people will start listening. So that's another way of taking this environment message to people. So I just thought, let's take, instead of environment issues, I start taking wildlife as part of the environment. I started following wild animals. So instead of wild animal, instead of just telling, save the tiger, instead of telling them, don't harm them, I thought as a cinema, I had a cinema background, studied films, studied storytelling, studied filmmaking. I thought let's see this whole animal as a character instead of a feature film. I mean, in even a feature film, always there's a protagonist, is always a character. I thought let's take this tiger as a character. So tiger, the main reason of tiger is, again, in India is the only place, mainly Asia is the only place we have this charismatic animal. In other places, you can see leopards and big cats and everywhere in Africa. I thought India is the only specialized, and our national animal is tiger, and very few people have done on this. It's not very easy to do a film on tigers, particularly in Indian forest. It's very dense and it's a lot of limitations. So I thought let's start telling a story through a tiger. So that's where it started. So the first film, we started filming for the crew used to come from, the producer used to come from outside. So I do camera work for them, So from that it started. Then after a point, I stopped working for them. Then I thought, okay, why can't I myself produce it and tell a story the way I want? Because what happens is people who come from abroad, they always, their whole, myth, the vision of our storytelling is completely different. But in our country, the story was completely different. I thought as an Indian first filmmaker, I wanted to tell a story from my perspective. So that's the reason I started producing films on myself. So I think till now I produced 5 to 6 films, completely self-financed, I invest my own money and I spend minimum 2 years to make one film. It's 1 hour film. Normally it takes 2 years, approximately 200 to 230, 40 days of filming and following one character for that many days till I get a story. So that's the way it started. So my first film is, I started a very famous character called Machli. So Machli's family I started. Later I followed the family for something around 9 years. In that process, in that 9-year period, I produced 3 films. So now I'm following some other character in Maharashtra for the last 2.5 years. So like that. It's like producing story, produce independent production, follow a character till you get a story, then go to abroad, then go to National Geography or whoever the international channel, sell it to them. So that's the way I'm just doing films.
Great, sir. Great, sir. So the beginning of the journey itself says like you have multiple roles to perform even in the starting thing, like as a filmmaker, as a cinematographer, and coming as an independent producer and producing films in the forest. That makes you a unique personality in this field, sir. And is there anyone like you have been admired a lot before coming into this field, like in wildlife filmmaking?
See, in India, there are very few filmmakers. I mean, obviously, in a feature film, there are a lot of people, I mean, we watch films. But in wildlife filmmaking, a lot of independent cinematographers, independent cameramen, they spend a lot of time. They've just, made films, the way they want to, project the particular characters. A lot of international, a lot of individual characters. There's no, what do you call that? The thing is, what happens is it varies from countries to country. In our country, the emotion works. In other places, the emotional stories won't work. What do you call that? Natural behaviors, naturalistic works, and it's for an universal audience. So, at the end of the day, I mean, for me, instead of following any particular thing, and I wanted to, incorporate this cinematic, sequences in documentary. That is the first thing which I wanted to tell, because we did a lot of documentaries. For example, in my journey of television, first time we did travel stories and automobile stories. That Top Gear Indian version we did in India, and this reality shows of Heathrow Airport with BBC did. I was a producer, cameraman. It's called same thing which we did in hospital instead of airport. It's again all emotional storytelling through documentaries. So it's not, we have not followed any. I have not followed any particular person as a mentor or something, because there are a lot of people good in different ways. But my thing is, I thought of telling a story through a character emotionally so that it can reach the audience. So that is my first effort. But as a cameraman, since I worked 15 years, 16 years as a cinematographer to different producer directors, after I learned a lot from them. After I thought, why can't, as an independent person, try to put all my knowledge and try to do something independently. So wildlife is the only thing which you can do it. For example, I go alone. I don't carry an assistant. Myself and my cameraman, my driver, or sometimes he's a guide and driver. Every day we go and we use very high-end equipment. The equipment what we are using is the equipment which people are using for feature films, like Alexa and Red, and I use Sony F55, which is a 4K camera, which also people do feature films. So same feature length, high-end technology, because that is a technology, the camera technical specifications this channel accepts. They won't accept below this. So we own this camera. I own the camera because that's the only way. And we have long lenses. We got 800 mm, we got doubler with 1600 mm, we got 300, 400, we got all sort of lenses. So as an independent cameraman, I go alone. I mount the camera, I travel, identify the character, follow the character, change the lens, do follow focus, come back, and what you call transfer all the data on my own. The next day morning, early morning, we go. So it's a completely one-man process. That is the only way this wildlife can happen. It's not that. So if someone really wanted to tell something on his own, to tell a great story on from their point of view, this is the only profession. So that's the reason I just thought I've done enough for others. So might as well do something on my own. So that's another neck. That's the initial stage. I mean, I can say I started producing films on my own.
Okay, sir. That puts up, like, you found inspiration from yourself making films, and you're taking you as a role model, and moving forward and producing the independent films on wildlife, right, sir? Sir, this question comes from the first year students. Like, as a beginner, what exactly we need to pursue this profession as a career?
See, as a career, I mean, for an international broadcast level, it is a long journey. If someone wants to get into the kind of independent production, it's a long journey. Because if you ask me, I used to work as a cinematographer, and then after that, since wildlife is sometimes you may have to follow 8 months and 10 months, and sometimes 1-2 years. So these international crews, they cannot afford to come always. So we'll start with something. Then after that, I'll start filming the sequences and I used to send to them. So on a regular basis to abroad, they sit there, they try to put together, they make a story. So you become a segment cameraman, no? Then you become a segment producer. Then you start working as a director for one particular episode. So we shoot and send it to them. They edit, then send back to you. Then you see then what is missing. Then you go follow, because that's the way it's a lot of stages one needs to do. So that itself is something around 5 to 6 years. You keep doing it to reach that stage. To produce a segment director, to produce an episode for them, because they cannot come here and stay for years. And unfortunately, in our country, we don't have any environment or wildlife channels. We have to our broadcaster is only broad. For example, National Geographic, Discovery, BBC, Animal Planet, whatever, Channel 4, whatever, they all abroad, we don't have. That's a worst thing in our country. We got so much wildlife and animals, we got everything. We got channel for agricultural, we got channel for cook, everything, but not for environment and wildlife. That's that's the biggest disadvantage. It's a tragedy. One needs to have it. So we have to depend on them. So end of the day, you have to listen to them. So, and they hardly pay money for Indian producers. No. Very rare. In India, there may be 3 to 4 wildlife filmmakers. That's one reason there is no one. It's not that easy to produce films because they're hardly commissioned. So that's the reason I invest my own money. Because the minute you take money from them, and obviously their demands are completely different. Their point of view is different, their view is different. You have to listen to them because their whole editorial is different. As an individual, as a filmmaker, if I want to tell a story, it may be difficult for them to accept it. So you will not get commissioned like our Sun TV or Z TV, they pay money. No, that never happens. Even working for the last 15, 20 years, you hardly get commission. And even if it commissioned, then it become an operative job, which you can do anything. For that, apart from, there's no point of doing wildlife for that. You can do any other business. So that's the reason I don't do it. So it's a journey. For people like students and engineers, youngsters now, there is a lot of scope because of a lot of OTT platforms, which has started coming into our country and everywhere worldwide, and they are looking for content. And a lot of, in fact, Facebook Watch, in fact, Disney has started coming with OTT platform, even Hotstar started, everyone started coming. And there is a great scope for them to make small stories. But now it's maybe just picking up. I'm talking about last 6 months or 1 year. They are looking for content which is 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, shorter form. So that is another good opportunity for everyone to produce wildlife-based films and sell it to them, or film the content and to sell it to them. That's the way one needs to start. YouTube, for example, that it's another way. A lot of YouTube also looking for content. But mainly they obviously want in fiction, but non-fiction is also there a lot of demand. That's the way one needs to start. So, I mean, this is for an independent individual. Otherwise, there is hardly any. For example, wildlife producers is a very small crew, 2-man crew, 3-man crew. You will not get a job in a company. No, it is a completely different way of working. No.
So that puts together like wildlife filmmaking is more than a passion, more a passion than a job.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Passion and hard work, and see, that's the reason I always say. People always say wildlife means a lot of money. No, if there's a lot of money, there should be at least some 20 to 100 filmmakers and should be in this profession. Hardly 3 or 4 you can hardly count. And most of the other people also, they depend mostly, they work on some government projects, or they may produce films for Indian television or Indian. There are Discovery, there are National Geography in India. They also produce films only for India and Asia. For an international broadcast, I mean, I'm talking about it's a big investment. So if I started talking about the investment, it will discourage people. That's the reason I don't want to talk. For example, filming fee in our country for any national park, for a tiger national park, per day, a filming fee itself is something around 15 to 16,000 rupees per day. Just imagine, if to produce a documentary, you need minimum 150 to 200 days. Officially, you have to spend that much filming fee on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. That itself it goes to lakhs. And you work with an international or high-end equipments, which like 4K, Red and whatever, Alexa or F55, whatever, which itself is a big investment. Even in a higher basis, you take that also going to cost at least 15,000 rupees a day, 20,000 rupees a day. With long lenses, it's more. So approximately your minimum cost per day is 40 to 50,000 rupees. Just imagine in 100 days, 200 days, multiply it, then you produce it and sell it. It's a very, very expensive process. But to get into that level, you need to start somewhere. No, that's why I'm telling you need to start smaller things. And smaller thing means nowadays everyone has got a 4K camera. There is no, as long as you're not commercially exploiting it, you can also go without getting into filming fee category. You can film, you can put together, you can do conservation films. As long as there's no commercial. And nowadays, a lot of people also doing it commercial. Some park, they are also allowing just to pay the normal tourist fee, and you can shoot, and you can also telecast it, because things are changing. So not for people like us, because we comes in the commercial category. A tourist, a student can go with 5Ds and GH5 and a lot of Panasonic cameras, and a lot of cameras that come now. Sony 7, 9, everyone. Even Canon is going to come with some R5, R6, whatever. So these are the cameras one can take with small stories, and one can start exploring it. That's the way one needs to start. But to reach this, it took almost 15 to 20 years for me to come to this stage. But still, I'm still struggling. Sometimes you end up struggling to sell a product. There's no story, there's no buyer.
Okay, so that was as you said. I just want to take that word. It's struggling. Your journey should be a struggling journey, because you're embarked on a safari into the forest. There should be a struggle between the human and wildlife. Like there will be a struggle, and as far as filmmaking concerned, the economical struggle will also be there, being an independent filmmaker. So overcoming all these things and producing some quality, wonderful films is really impeccable, sir. Thanks for that. And let's get into this story of your unique thing, like tigers. So being most of us know tiger as only our national animal, but you're the one who saw a story behind the family of tigers. So how did this story came into you, and how this animal tigers came into you?
It's all again, most of the things are self-interpretation. When you start following a tiger, regularly, you can keep following, you'll obviously will end up observing so many things. Their internal, not politics, I will call it, and you can also interpret it as a politics. the relationship between mother, the relationship between sisters and brothers, and relationship between father, mother, the family, and their territorial behavior, and there is and lot of aspects which some people will discuss only as a natural history behavior, and I try to see the whole thing in a different perspective. The day you start seeing as a different perspective, you will end up getting a lot of story ideas. Why this is happening, why not, and keep this basic territorial behaviors in natural history, and keep that in mind and you start following it. And we'll try to collect this sequence on a daily basis, and we interpret it, and we just raise some 10 questions in your own mind. When we keep that pointer, then next day the things will change. Then you start analyzing it. Why? Because for me, I follow one particular character. Even in, for example, forests like Ranthambore, or now I'm working in Tadoba, there are some lot of tigers. Maybe every forest will have a minimum of 50 to 60 tigers approximately. So I don't go anywhere else. I just try to fix one particular character. The first thing what I see is visibility, because we spend a lot of money. So there's no point of going to a tiger, which is the minute you see it, run away. No, I always try to select a character. At least the minute you approach, you go closer to them, at least they stay there. It takes time to. Most of the tigers are from tourism zones. We try to identify the tigers, and that's the way we start. Observing. It's again observation. It varies from different people to people. But since I'm not writing a book, since I'm not writing a poem, or I'm not writing a newspaper article, since I am telling a story through a video, which is a visual media, till I get that particular interpretation on camera, whatever I interpreted on camera, I will not talk about that particular thing in my sequence. So I need an evidence. If, for example, when I was following a tiger, she had 2 cubs, and after 3 months, the mother died. So these 2 cubs become orphan. So we started following by keeping a remote camera. You can see that film, which is, I don't know, it's called Tiger's Revenge. In that film, you can see. So the 2 cubs become orphan. So we still, I was still religiously following the characters. By every day we keep a camera, a remote camera. Next day morning we go and pick up this camera and see these cubs are, coming and going. And one day we saw one male was coming and regularly coming and going. So it's very easy to say, anything about that. But for us, if we want to tell something, we need some visual evidence. Then we follow, then realize that male is the father of the 2 orphans. That's the first time we managed to get a sequence of a father who is taking care of 2 orphan cubs. So which itself is big natural, completely a first time natural history. We are seeing a father who's taking care of his own cub. And we also got that on camera. So like that, we managed to get the story by religiously following it, then try to put together in my sequence. But in the minute, after 2 months, we lost the character. That doesn't mean that, you lost the story. So we religiously followed it, and we managed to get a story. Then we followed. Then we realized, and he had an affair with some other tiger. So whatever happens in our life has also happened. Most of the thing you can relate. The relationship, rivalry, the vengeance, that dominant factor from brothers and sisters. A lot of things you can relate with our own life with these wild animals. So that's the way. If you tell a story, you tell a positive way of these animals, tell a story in a positive way, so that the audience can start respecting and liking these animals. There's another way of telling a conservation story. Instead of keep telling, tiger is important, save the tiger, don't kill the tiger. So you get emotionally, you start relating this character with your own system. So that's all my story, a positive story. Even though a lot of negative thing happens, we try to tell a story in a positive way. So you attach to the animal, start respecting it. So that's the way. It is no fixed definition. We don't go with a script. I don't go with the story saying that this is going to happen. It may not happen at all. You go with every day the story unfolds. Every day the story changes. After 3 months, you will completely lose a character and some other character will come. So you can't lie. These all characters which are real characters which tourists, everyone knows. You cannot create a story and try to tell it because you can make out from the story. You can see all my films. You can see it. It is there. So, and in same thing, as a cinematographer, studied films. I try to give all this cinematic, I'll add on all the value of cinematic things, so that you get a feel of a cinema drama, So telling a story in a dramatic way, even though it's a documentary, not in a storytelling. So that's what all I'm working, because you can see all my films have got some beginning. There's an emotion, there's ups and downs, there's a climax, and all happens like film. But here it's a one man vision, and that's a little difficult part. But I'm not telling difficult, but one needs to have that passion. One needs to have that time to spend. Sometimes you lose the character. Sometimes you lose the money. Sometimes you get good profit. But again, as an individual, I can take it, because otherwise I don't want to go. Because my whole idea is I don't want to go and work with a crowd of people which I don't like to do it, because that's a completely different way of filmmaking.
Yes, sir. So that was wonderful. Naming these tigers, has a unique place. And for you concerned, this one name would be so close to your heart, like Machli, because you've been traveled with her almost for more than 8-9 years, and you have produced a film on her complete, almost half a lifespan, and the film has got the National Award as well. So your relation, your companionship with Machli and filming her during her span.
See, Machli is a world famous tiger. That is one. So that's one reason which I've selected this character, because better to work with a character which the whole world knows about it. So you already a character, at least people will know there is an audience for it. It's like in a fiction, always they say they try to work with a big hero so that there's an opening. There's you won't lose that film. No, even there's a beginning. There's always something, and people can. It's the same thing in work. The same formula works there also. But my idea is here in documentary, obviously we need it, because in a cinema, even there's a maybe completely different way. Here we need a character which is world famous, and she's most photographed tiger in this world. A lot of people knows emotionally they're attached with this character. And apart from that, as an individual, if you see, she's got a lot of individuality. Like you can see she's her gene pool of Machli's gene pool in whole Rajasthan. If you see her generation, there are 50 to 60 tigers. The whole Rajasthani field, there will be always some Machli's relation will be there. If you see the family tree of Machli, you can somehow make out and it will end up in Machli. So that is one reason. And again, you have one single tiger. If she can generate a gene pool of 50 cubs, so that means it's like I just want to tell a story. You can't ignore one thing. People say, we keep hearing, Ajay, there is one tiger has died today, and there's one tiger has been poisoned today. People always take it very casually. They just don't bother about that. But my issue is, even every tiger matters. If your one tiger like Machli can generate 50 cubs, so you cannot simply ignore by saying that we lost one tiger, because that particularly female tiger is very important. In our country, if you see, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a conservationist. As a filmmaker, anyone can, because people always say wildlife filmmaker. Somehow I don't agree that we need to know zoology and botany. If you want to incorporate, always we can get those experts and we can get their views and we can try to incorporate it. But as a filmmaker, I know my language. I studied my language of filmmaking. I'm trying to apply that into wildlife. Or in my wildlife also, a character. I see them as a character. So muchly like this thing is why I'm telling is, again, in our country, females are very less. In our country, for a balanced forest, they always say, one male and 3 females supposed to be there. In our country, it is ulta. It's like, only 1 female and 3 males. It's a male-dominated forest in mainly our national park. So even if you lose one particular female, it's a big loss. So that's the reason I followed Machli, because her gene pool is 50 tigers. And every characters of our last litter, if you see, I followed all of last litter. And every litters, every daughter, Machli's every daughter, every character itself is a character. I produced 3 films on them. One is Sundari, one is Krishna, and one I'm doing an Arrowhead. So they are all characters. So put together, the whole family has got, it's a great potential to tell a story about this whole issue. This is a case study to talk about this overall issue in our country. There's no point, there's no need to go, and film every character from different park and put together, because Machli itself has got everything. It's a case study. So that's one reason again I followed it. And third is again, people always, most of the filmmakers who are done, whether in a big cat film, they always start from cubs to maximum the 2-3 years they follow. And no one has tried to do a film on a tiger from prime age to till the end, death, which is, they always, somehow they've ignored it. And this is the one, Machli is the one I think I followed when she was prime and till the death. Because end of the day, that is a main, even if you Machli film, if you see the way she dies, that it's like, it's not a death, it's a celebration of a life. So the kind of achievement she has done throughout her life. So I just wanted to talk about that. Again, we try to always, in a film, always in a filmmaking, always emotional works. There is an emotional part which really worked. And if that particular emotional sequence is not there, there's no film. No, you can't keep saying about she has done this, she has done that, because which everyone knows. And again, there was the first time a natural death we captured on camera, because otherwise most of the tigers have been poaching visuals and accident visuals or poisoned dead visuals. Here there is something which is dying, which is, again, it's all again seeing the whole thing in a different perspective. So, and the whole family had everything, because one of the Machli cub, they translocated from one park to another park. That was the first time happened in our country, to a poaching zone. So we talked about poaching. So there's the idea of following it. One family has got everything, to all the issues to talk about in our country, to see the one case study. So that's the reason I followed and managed to get a very good footage. And it was almost 8 to 9 years of compilation of footage. So that's why it worked.
Yes, there's one question from the student. Like, as you were with Machli for most of the times, can you tell me how the people's relationship grew with Machli as she was the very aged one, and how she blurred the lines between a wild to domestic?
See, more or less, Machli is also after a point, she lived almost 17, 18 years, and lot of people knows about Machli because she's friendly to people. She's friendly to tourists. She comes. That's why it's the most photographed tiger. And after a point, you can say, it's like more or less, it's like a domesticated cat. It's like you can say, but only thing is, she had all these wild things, but more or less, she's there in one. And after a point, what happened in later stage, she restricted to one particular area. It's not that, she moves around, even though tigers have their own territory, which is long, which is huge. It's very difficult to sometimes to spot them. But here, Machli is there, but once in 2 days, you manage to see. I'm not talking about the beginning, prime time, when she was old. So people heard a lot about her. Not only in locals. She's the one killed a crocodile and lost her teeth. So she became famous from that day onwards. It was the first tiger. They got it on a photographers who managed to get a photo of her she killing a crocodile. So she became famous and lots of ways. And BBC made a film on her. From that she's become famous. So people come all over the world. They always relate Machli's. Whoever wants to come, they have to see Machli because she's that famous. And for them, it's just seeing. For me, it's getting the detail of Machli's behavior is important because. So if you ask me, a lot of locals are very much attached to that. This whole park in Ranthambore itself is famous because of Machli. It gives a lot of money, generated a lot of money to locals. tourists, villagers, hotels, everyone. I mean, for example, August Kranti is a train which stops only in cities, like only 3 or 4 stops. But it starts from Delhi but stops in Savai Madhapur, which is Machli's forest area, forest railway station, because people come there to see Machli. There's like super fast train stops there. It's a very small town, and the whole railway station you can see they painted with Machli's family. So this all everything new. If she created so many new, most photographed tigers, millions of dollars of money they generated, and people say that, I mean, she's got what do you call that? Lot of awards and stuff, and I mean, so she. I mean, which is very difficult to believe a single tiger can get it. So that's the reason everyone is got very much attached to tiger. And as a filmmaker, yes.
Yes, sir. So through this film, we get to understand the story of Machli completely from her prime age to her death. And we all know like taxidermy is done with Machli.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so because after that I didn't follow.
Okay.
But
Okay.
they wanted to do it, but didn't do it actually.
Okay. Okay.
Because in India, a lot of the problem in our country, always I'm not blaming, but we can, I mean, compared to abroad, and obviously, I mean, the one thing which I always wanted to tell people is filmmakers like us, we are allowed to shoot only from the jeep. We are not allowed to get down. Unlike other parks, you can get down. So like that, you've got a lot of limitations in our country and rules and regulations. But it's not, I don't think they wanted to make a museum, they wanted to make a, what you call, memorial. It never happened actually.
Never. Right. So how did you, sir, this question may be a little bit close to your heart. So how did you get over from her disappearance? Because you had more stories, following her for the past almost a decade. So how it has been to you?
Thing is, in this whole process of what you call 15 to 20 years of journey, we have seen a lot of death and kill and everything. It's a part. Every day you get to see a tiger killing a deer and kill the mother, and you can see and the small cub will be become orphan. This death, seeing a death and positive and negative things happens in every moment. So we are used to that. People like us regularly following are used to that, but particularly Machli case, we become a little more emotional. We very attached to that tiger we followed, so many years. But as a filmmaker, for me, to capture that incident is the first priority, because that's what important. Because after a point, you will forget about all these things, because you keep away that. Because the whole thing is, wildlife filmmaking, you hardly get a chance to capture things. The moment of what you need to, very important first thing to capture the right moment, which is very important. So at that time, we forget everything. But obviously, after sometimes you feel bad about it. When you recollect those memories, you feel that's part of the life. And yes, Machli death, I never expected I'll get it on camera, because because most of the people, whatever I read and whatever my experience, whatever I heard from people, if any wild animal, if they wanted to die, they always disappear from people's eye and they just die. You get only the carcass. That's what. Whether it's elephant or big cat, that's what they say. So I thought, we are going to get only the dead. What do you call that? Machli shot. But that was one way. It's good if we because that is the first documentation of natural history, which is just happened. Which is suddenly when I was waiting early morning, I went there and no one was there. She was 2-3 days. She was struggling. So I just happened to be that particular day in the early morning. I was there and she started wheezing, and suddenly I just started filming. She died. Because no one was there. Which I never expected. I don't know. Maybe destiny. But it worked in my film. But again, for me at that time capturing the particular moment of the death, and I also wanted to shoot that particular death in such a way beautifully so that it won't look ugly for viewers to see. So that's as a cinematographer, that's my first thing, to get the camera and make sure that it's not looking very ugly and stuff. That's So we are, yes, as a filmmaker, I felt a little bad. I mean, obviously, a lot of memories. But sorry, as a filmmaker, for me, that moment was important. I managed to capture it. So if you ask me, I can say only that. Yes, not only Machli, we are attached to a lot of other tigers also, because there's one tiger, Machli's daughter, Sundri, followed for 2 years. One day she absconded, then we realized, then we got a news saying that someone has poisoned her. We didn't even get that, carcass, we didn't get the dead body, but it was still, she's in the missing list. And recently I followed one family of mother with 2 cubs. We followed and followed and followed for almost 200 days of filming. The great character, our daughter. I followed the daughter when she was 6 months old. Her name is Meera. And after monsoon one day when I went there and we lost the character. So followed for 18 months a cub. So like this. So this is part of in wild you facing it on a daily basis. But yes, there are some memorable characters like Machli which you cannot forget it.